Welcome back to Dragons on the Wall, where we're going into full spoilers on episode 4 of the final season of Game of Thrones, titled The Last of the Starks. My name is Joshua Yale, and I'm feeling like Cersei Lannister because I've finally taken the throne on Dragons on the Wall. You'll find that Terry may have lost her head. No, not really. She had to go do a thing. So you're stuck with me and my two co-hosts.
I'm Jim, and I'm feeling like Jon Snow because I'm probably about to say something stupid that I'll regret.
Yes, you will. I'm Laura Prudhomme, and I'm feeling like Varys because the game's afoot again, and I'm into it.
All right, guys. Well, let's talk about which I know is on your mind, Laura. All those hookups.
I know.
There were some attempted hookups, but some actual hooking up, starting with Brienne and Jaime. That was such a crazy moment for me. I was kind of like pulling my hair out. I was like, I don't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
Because for so long, it seemed like, they want each other, but they're never going to get it. And in a way, they consummated their love when Jaime knighted Brienne. And I thought, that's as far as it's ever going to go. And then at this one, they stripped each other.
Yeah. It was like, why not? Why not go all the way? We've survived a great death, White Walker, Night King apocalypse. Smoke them if you got them. I like it. I thought that it was great that it kind of was precipitated by like Tyrion basically shaming her for being a virgin and like ruining their whole mood, and then Jaime kind of getting to be, the gentleman and being like, it doesn't matter, you need to drink and then we'll get this show on the road. It was a sweet moment.
Well, he wasn't that gentlemanly because he totally blocked poor Tormund, who finally thought maybe tonight is my night.
Tormund needs to read some signs, man.
I mean,
he's
the wildling version of the poor friend zone Jorah. May he rest in peace. I thought, it's interesting because at a certain point, the debate sort of becomes how much fan service is the show doing, and was this just fan service? Did it really have to happen? I think it was interesting that it went there, but it seemed to be more so that Jaime would realize that he had an option besides Cersei.
Yeah.
And, he doesn't take it, but we'll probably talk about that later.
Yeah. It was really interesting because I too felt that this feels a lot like fan service. Like they've been doing a lot of that this season. But ultimately, by the end of the episode, we saw there was a dramatic reason for that happening. It's because, he decided to stay up north, with this woman who he truly does love. And they could have a happy life together up there with, the Lord and the Knight. Why not? And but of course, we saw like he can't help but go back to Cersei. He's addicted to Cersei in a way.
Both hateful people, which is a line that I think they've said to each other in the past, right? Like they've called each other hateful. It's like a nice term of endearment between Cersei and Jaime.
It certainly rings a bell. Yeah.
That's
like,
kind of like their aphrodisiac is actually, not love. It's hate. I mean, they love each other, but, him saying, I'm a hateful person was as close to him saying something hurtful to her, like, I will never love you, which I think he does love her. But, he had to break it off.
That's not even my read of it. I think it's that he knows that he's been such a douche over the years, and we've kind of seen him on this redemptive arc for so long, that I feel like he has some unfinished business with Cersei. I've seen people online already speculating, is he going to go back to her? Is he going to, join forces with Cersei again? And I don't think so. I feel like this is him saying, I'm going to be the one to kill her.
I definitely think so, because as a lot of people have theorized, it would be poetic justice for Jaime to be the one to kill Cersei. Will he actually do it? I don't know, but I think he'll definitely try, because I think he thinks like, I was brought into this world with Cersei, and like I understand her like no one else. I love her, so if anyone's going to kill her, I'm going to be the one to do it, even though it's something I don't want to do, but I feel like I have to do, because he recognizes that he is this hateful person. I think he doesn't think he deserves a happy ending with Brienne. Just having making snow angels with their children and stuff in the north. I think that was him accepting the fact that he's not going to have a happy ending, and neither is Cersei, and then they should be the end of each other's lives.
He doesn't want to drag Brienne down with him, which I guess is to your point. Like he knows that Brienne will go after him if he doesn't kind of make this like, I've got to do this, like we're both hateful kind of stand.
I don't think he's going to kill Cersei with a sword, though. I have a feeling poison is going to be the means, because it would be this kind of twisted Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, and also too, like, considering all the poisoning that's happened one to, you know, Joffrey, and then how,
Masala.
yeah, all that. So I think that's how it's going to go. That, or he's going to just light up, what is it, the wildfire? And
Take the
them
whole
all
place
out.
down.
Throw
Whoa.
Yeah.
That would go flying in
But
the
I think
face.
it's going to go with poison.
I think actually if we go into the books, let's go just a little bit really quickly. Is the Valonqar theory?
Yes.
Is that the Valonqar was mentioned in a prophecy, which in High Valyrian means little brother, so people think that's Jaime, and then the cause of death there is by choking.
Yes.
So if that prophecy happens, which wasn't mentioned in
the
full
show, yeah.
in the show, only in the books, that could happen. Who knows? But there's another hookup or attempted hookup. Trying to get round 2 on that hookup. Gendry went to Arya and was like, "Hey, I'm Lord of Storm's End now. Hey, do you want to like be my lady and I'll be your lord?" And she was like, "No, I got something else I got to do." You know, she says, "I'm not a lady," and I think that was really powerful moment for her, because she was offered a happy ending, but she thought, no, like I've got my list. You know, I have people need to pay, and I have things I need to do.
Yeah.
And she needed to go and say no to Gendry and go do that.
Yeah, it's a perfect kind of callback to her discussion with Ned way back in season 1, where, you know, he's like, "Oh, you'll be a little lady and you'll marry a nice lord and you'll have all these children." And she says to him, I think it's back in episode like 3 or 4 of season 1, "That's not me," which is what she says to Gendry. And it's also something that she says to Nymeria when she encounters her, you know, back with this wolf pack in the forest, where, you know, she tries to get Nymeria to come back with her, and then she realizes, that's not you. They gotta run free and kill some people. I love it.
And Jim, what do you think of the fact that she's going off with the Hound?
Well, I think this season, one of the through lines seems to be, do people change, or will they just see their fate through to the end? And as she's riding off with the Hound, and he's like, "I'm not coming back," and she basically says she's not either. We'll see about that, but I do think we're seeing between her and Jaime, people accepting that it's almost like a Western to me, like you're riding off to the gunfight and you know this is it, but you're going to do your duty, you're going to do your business and take that person out.
Yeah, that made me, I took like a sharp intake of breath when I was like, wow, both of them are going on what they know is essentially a suicide mission. Right. Arya, we all know, wants to kill Cersei, you know, at the top of her list. Yep. And yeah, that's probably going to be a one-way ticket to King's Landing. And for the Hound, he obviously wants to kill his brother, the Mountain, Zombie Mountain. And will we finally get Clegane Bull?
Yes, the hype is real.
It's like there's some kind of Suicide Squad.
No.
Some kind of Clegane Bull.
Nope.
So another big topic of conversation that we were having just after the episode was that they didn't even mention the Night King. Like after all that, like from the very first episode of the show until last episode was this, you know, building up this conflict with the Night King. I take it back. The Hound made a little joke about, you know, Arya stabbing that horned dude. Yeah. And but after that, no one like wanted to reflect on like, well, what was that? Can you believe what we really did? I mean, I guess Jaime did mention to Brienne, you know, we fought the dead. That was not really a substantial conversation. Not even Bran, who is kind of his whole mission as the three-eyed raven is to, you know, deal with him. And he didn't have any sort of like closing remarks or, you know, a post-mort, you know.
Let's all get together and like, what the just happened?
Yeah,
no,
like
none of it.
What the heck, guys? Did the Night King mean anything to the show?
Yeah.
No, I do feel like the show, if you look back on it started hinting at the White Walkers right at the beginning, but it was just meant to be sort of this background throughout, this background dressing to all the soap opera-y kind of political stuff. And at some point, like later in the run, it became all about the White Walkers. So in a way, it is a recalibration to what the show is about. So I think ultimately, I think we're going to see maybe a little bit something supernatural before it's all said and done. But I think maybe that is it overall for the sort of larger than life, colorful aspect of the show.
Yeah, especially when we're killing dragons left and right. It just seems like magic is really being taken off the board. And I guess that kind of makes sense from like George R.R. Martin kind of basing everything off, you know, real political dynasties like War of the Roses and
Yeah.
kind of all of the political nonsense that happened in my homeland of England back in the day. So I feel like, it's kind of in answer to all of that, Lord of the Rings nonsense where it's like, no, power corrupts and people can be even worse than these, fantastical creatures. And, that's what it comes down to. So I think as divisive as last week's episode was, I think that it is kind of good to refocus on the dangers that we all pose to each other.
Well, on that note, I might also throw in Shakespeare in the Bard.
Yes.
Macbeth, it has witches, The Witcher, sorry. Good IGN. Witches and a kind of a supernatural element to it, but at the end of the day, it's still about somebody who, kills the king and wants power and all that stuff. It's still about human beings and the horrible choices they make and what they do to each other. So I think the show is, kind of, here was all that cool stuff that you liked. Look, we have it right here in the studio. But
And Jim is gesturing to our
Night King.
Night King friend.
Wow,
We
listeners.
killed him. We stuffed him. He's in our studio. But that it's ultimately about people being horrible, horrible people. And that was one theory I always had about the show. I don't think it's actually going to happen, but that humans can't be trusted with magic, so there's no way that magic is going to make it to the end of the show because they can't even be trusted with a little bit of information, let alone magic.
Oof, right? Yeah. Secrets everywhere.
Secrets and lies.
Yes, this was Nick, our producer, called this like the gossip episode.
Yeah.
'Cause it's all about secrets. We're going to talk about secrets in a second, but right now I have a very important question.
Yes.
What does Dracarys mean? And I of course know Dracarys is High Valyrian for Dragonfire, and it's Dany's like signature catchphrase, sort of, and it's her command for the dragons to set fire to things. But with Missandei, getting tragically executed by the Mountain on command of Cersei, why did she choose to say Dracarys?
It's her way of saying burn them all, right? Like if we're going back to another kind of very Targaryen turn of phrase. I think she's saying, you tried to negotiate and it didn't work, so light these nice people up.
I also think, she knows Daenerys, she knows her pressure points, and she was definitely hitting that trigger, hitting that button, because she knows that she was one of her last only trusted advisors. She's running out of friends real fast. And definitely running out of people she can trust. And, it's just a way of making sure that she, one, gets avenged, and two, that maybe her pal Dany will win.
Yeah, it's actually scary that that Missandei would say that. Like, knowing that that's actually kind of like, that's what Dany wanted to hear, I think, in a way, of like, you have my permission as one of your most trusted advisors and oldest friends. That I think it's a good idea to use the nuclear option, which is, for some saying that to someone like Dany who has her back against the wall is very, very scary.
Yeah, especially when you remember that Dany said that she didn't want to be Queen of the Ashes, and that seems to be what the show is setting up, that she and Cersei are kind of on this collision course, this game of chicken in which everyone will die just because they're so set on each other.
Chickens.
Yes.
Yeah, that brings up a great point that Dany is now losing the Game of Thrones. She seemed like she was in such a great position going into this season, even going into this episode, coming off a big victory. But when you kind of look at it, her army was depleted. She no longer has the best claim to the throne. The people of Westeros love Jon more than her. They see her as a foreigner at best and as spawn of the Mad King at worst, who's just going to be lording over them again and go crazy with that dragon madness. Also, with The Secret coming out, Tyrion and Varys know that she has the worst claim as well, so they're in on it. She lost Jorah, she lost Missandei, she lost Rhaegal, right? She has just one dragon and a dead best friend.
Yeah.
So
everything is not coming up Dany this week. It's a real bummer.
Well, I think it's also too like the thing is she has her back to the wall, and that's oftentimes like the whole adage about like if you corner an animal, that's when they're most dangerous. and maybe one dragon is all she needs. You know, they're clearly setting it up that the people will lose faith in her as she's just a mad person with a nuke, basically, and no claim on the throne. And that's exactly what Cersei would like. And in a way, that's kind of what Sansa wouldn't mind either. We'll see if Dany is like father, like daughter, and kind of just goes bananas. I think she will to a degree, but I think ultimately her greed might not necessarily fully equate to madness. I think at some point, like, she will realize, like, I have to not be completely like my dad because I want that thing. But we'll see. We'll see. There's only, 2 episodes left?
Only 2 episodes
And
left.
I think that the last one might just, stop me if we're going to talk about this later, right? We're going to do predictions?
Yes, save that for
I
the
will
end.
save that. I
Yes.
will save that.
But Laura, please, give me your thoughts. You're shaking your head.
Oh my gosh. Well, I just hate the Mad Queen thing so much because I feel like Dany has been on this journey since the very beginning. You know, she toiled away in Essos. She's supposedly learned all these lessons from all these various advisors that she had. And I just think that it's just so lazy to have her just go Mad Queen and be like the bad guy that everyone has predicted her to be. It just seems like such on-the-nose storytelling when, like, Sansa's telling Jon this, and Sam's telling Jon this, and everyone's just, even her closest living supporters, Tyrion and Varys, are now turning against her. It's like all of the pieces are in place for her to do this and be the person that they all think she should be. So it would be so much more heroic and fitting for her to actually subvert those expectations and be like, no, you guys really don't believe in me, but I'm not going to give in to my worst impulses right now. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, everything she's done has kind of led them to think that she's become...
For sure, she's behaving like a Mad Queen tyrant who will
Yes.
burn everyone. Like, but that's the show... since it's left the books, it has leaned so heavily into foreshadowing. Like, we had the crypts are the safest place to be before the Battle of Winterfell, and then we all saw how that turned out. So I just feel like the show is foreshadowing it so heavily that it can't be that simple, right?
Speaking of foreshadowing, your shirt.
My shirt says Dracarys, and I didn't even know it was coming. It's
didn't
great.
plan it. It's awesome.
Perfect.
That's amazing. That is amazing. You're prophetic.
I am.
Could you wear a shirt of me eating a slice of pizza next time?
Yes,
and
I
we'll
will.
just see what happens.
Yes.
See if that comes true as well.
I think it might, yes.
Okay, that would be great.
Yep, I got you.
But no, I think, everything you said is totally on the money, that they seem to be very, very obviously setting up these things. Like, oh, Dany's like not doing so hot. She might start lashing out and go a little Dracarys on everyone. And they haven't really tossed in any twists. Like with the Night King, we thought for sure with that whole Battle of Winterfell, there would be a twist. Nope, everything just kind of went according to their really awful plan.
Yeah.
And here we are. And now they're setting up the fact that she's got pretty much no friends. She's down resources, soldiers, dragons, everything. And she's not liked by anyone particularly here.
No.
Grey Worm's not there for a shoulder to cry on because he's out probably wanting to climb those walls himself and kill Cersei, or the mountain. Now you have 2 people wanting to kill the mountain. But yeah, it's just her. Looks like she's going over the deep end in a really obvious way.
Yeah.
Will they subvert our expectations at the last second where she kind of turns around? I don't even know if they've left her room to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I do feel like they have written it, as Laura said, pretty on the nose, and I think they're. My concern is that they are going to do the obvious thing because at this point there's only so much real estate left, and at some point they have to bring it back to the Starks in that core family relationship, and there has to be some sort of conflict there between them. So at some point, is it that Dany does kind of not take the bait and goes through with it, and now it's up to Jon is still loyal to her? So does that do to those 2 families, to the Starks and to the new Targaryen family, if they do, like, she does marry Jon, all that kind of thing? I mean, that's one way they could subvert it, is that she doesn't turn into the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland and off with their heads kind of thing. Because she's already done that basically with the
Tarleys.
Yeah, so it's like it would be Then again, I don't know. At this point, I think they just want they just want to get it over with
get it over
and move
with.
on. And,
The end.
But I don't know. I think they're going to drag that last thing out to the last episode.
Yeah, we only have 2 episodes left, so you're right. There's not a lot of room to really subvert our expectations and go off in a wild direction. So it may end as though it has been foretold. But let's move on to what I think is the most interesting part of this episode, and why I liked this episode the most out of any of this season was that Game of Thrones now feels like Game of Thrones again.
Right.
There's like political intrigue. There's manipulation of other people. There's vying for power for the throne. There's secret alliances. There's people playing their own best interests while trying to gain alliances and take out other people.
Yeah.
That and there's sort of like a mystery in the show going on of who knows the information of John having the better claim and what they choose to do with that information. And watching that be passed around this episode was really interesting. And it felt like that was a powder keg that could go off at any second and made the episode feel alive with tension that just hadn't really been there before when all they were doing was preparing to kill the Night King. Right.
It was very tense. I felt very tense watching it, which is true of the last episode too, but that kind of ended in a more of an anticlimactic way, whereas this, you're right, there's so much potential on the table again. Like, is Varys going to betray Dany? Is she going to get wind of it and then kill him after Melisandre kind of foretold that he would die in Westeros like she did? It's interesting to me, and I said this in my review, which you should go read on IGN.com, that Sansa and Arya are kind of behaving just the same as Cersei is, really. They're being manipulative. They're kind of playing 2 sides against the middle, for their own ends. And I like that the show is kind of reminding us that no one's really the hero of this story. Even Jon, who's, technically very pure of heart and he wants to be honest, but he's kind of being honest for selfish reasons because he doesn't want to keep the secret, because he'd feel awkward lying to his sisters. Even though Dany kind of says, she begs him even to not spread this around because she knows that it's just going to end in disaster and everyone's going to be suspicious and turning on each other. And that's exactly what happens. It's like, if everyone could just get in a room and be honest with each other, half of this could be sorted out. But sadly, everyone's too busy with their own agendas. And so that's going to lead to utter disaster for everyone. I kind of love that.
I love it too. Actually, speaking of tension, this did feel tense in a different way than a big battle, the big battle did last episode. And what took me off guard was when Rhaegal got taken out, and when that dragon died, that upset me more than any death in the previous episode. Right? It was so shocking, so unexpected. They were riding.
Lyanna Mormont did get me in the last episode.
You think? Okay.
That one, crushing her like a little rag doll, that was bad. But yes, you're right. It was a lot more unexpected because you're just like, we're just flying, having a grand old time. Oh no.
Yeah, and just that Dany sees the dragons as her children. And so, unexpected deaths. That's another thing that's from the Game of Thrones of old, right?
Yeah.
That for the early seasons when the show was the best it ever was. And then also there's people just making power plays, like Dany assigning, Gendry, giving him that house, the little, but it's for her own gain, doing things like that. But I will say my favorite part of the episode was when Tyrion and Varys have that really long conversation about who should rule, Dany or Jon, and sort of weighing
in the
them.
throne room, no less, like Littlefinger and Varys always used to do in the Red Keep.
Yes.
And Varys actually, if anybody this season, actually sounded like the best one to actually take over.
Yeah.
He was, I don't know.
He's actually had his eyes on the prize the whole time, really. He's been working for Daenerys this whole time and moving the chess pieces. But he has always, maintained that he wants it for the realm and for the good of the people, which is something that no one else really seems to give a damn about anymore.
It's really crummy of those guys to, be like, oh, we need Dany and her dragons and stuff to beat the Night King. But the second he's gone, they're like, on second thought.
She's kind of a bummer, so let's get rid of her. Who's better? It's very annoying.
Well, I think also the, in terms of the whole, easy deaths. I mean, couldn't you say that though also about Rhaegal? They set up that these dragons are the ultimate weapons, and it just took a harpoon, basically. To
Two
get rid of it.
harpoons?
2 harpoons.
Or
but
3,
like,
right? Like a lot of
Was it
harpoons.
3? Oh.
Okay.
There are a fair amount of harpoons.
But I don't know. Do you think he's really dead, or is he going to come back out of the ocean? I
no,
don't
there's
know.
no one left to resurrect him with like one of these moves like the Night King did.
Unless Arya's like secretly the Night Queen, like she inherited his powers, and she comes up. That's how she kills Cersei with a risen Rhaegal with like blue eyes and blue flame. Ah! Yeah.
See, I think at some point Jon will say the word Dracarys and the dragon will spit fire because it'll start to like
The dead
react to
dragon
him.
in the lake?
No, even
Drogon?
Drogon.
Turn on Danny.
Yeah.
Start
You don't
listening
think.
to John.
No.
He
He's a
would
Targaryen.
never.
I don't know.
But the Drogon has been with Dany
Yeah,
from the
he's her
beginning.
baby.
Little baby.
You're so
Yeah,
mean.
you know. It's
I mean,
Game of
it's a mean
Thrones. People
show.
turn on each other all the time.
Even the dragon's in
Yeah.
on the
Even the
betrayal.
dragon,
This
yeah.
truly
Even
is the Game of Thrones of old. Even the dragon wants to betray
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's now talk about predictions for what you think might happen next time. Laura, what's on your
no,
mind?
Don't start with me.
Okay, Jim,
Yeah.
what's on your mind?
Well, I think the next episode will probably end the whole vying for King's Landing. I think the Lannister storyline will end, and the very last episode will just be about the Stark family and will there be any family left at the end of this? Like, was it all worth it to, in the end, even turn on your siblings, even if your sibling is Aegon Targaryen? But I think that's ultimately like the real test of, do you really want this power? How far will you go for it? Will you actually turn on your family? And, we've seen in the past, Theon put to the test and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. So, yeah, I think the next episode, the King's Landing stuff with the Lannisters will be wrapped up.
Bold prediction. Bold, Laura.
Well, I'm very curious because you kind of don't see Euron's reaction to all of Tyrion's stuff when Tyrion's kind of appealing to Cersei and her pregnancy and her saving her baby in the future. Like, we don't really get to clock Euron's reaction to that, but you would hope that he would have put the math together and figured out, if this guy knows that she's pregnant, but I only stopped her like a week ago, like, how's that? I don't know how that works. Like, maybe Euron's going to be the one to kill Cersei. I am unsure.
I don't think she's actually pregnant with anyone's kid.
I still think she's pregnant. I think she is, and she's willing to use Jaime's baby for her own ends.
She's
But I
been
feel like
pregnant
that's
for
gonna.
2 years now.
But who can
She's not
like
showing nothing.
2 years or 2 weeks in this show? Who can tell anymore? I don't know. Because like even there's this kind of line in the episode, right? Like it might take Jon and the army 2 weeks to get down to us or something.
Yeah, a
and yet-
fortnight, which, yeah, is 2 weeks, yeah.
But Jaime is just leaving Winterfell now, so presumably it's going to take him just as long. So if he turns up in King's Landing just in time for this battle, I'm calling shenanigans on the fast travel again. Like, I don't know.
No, I was thinking of the Euron thing as well. Like,
Yeah.
is he not going to say something, or is he going to
Biding
put the
his
math together?
time.
But also, maybe he's thinking, oh, Tyrion just sees that she's pregnant from like 100 feet away
Just squinting
at an
up
angle
at her.
into the sun.
Do you think Euron will kill both the Lannisters, and in the end, they have to go after him? He's sitting up there with Wildfire and all that jazz.
I don't know. Who would be the most satisfying person to take out Euron?
Right. Like, I feel like Euron has to die before Cersei does, just for it to, like, sure, they could end with, like, him being the last great threat, but he's so annoying. Like, who's
Yeah.
gonna do that? Unless it's Yara, like, sailing the fleet back to get revenge for all of the stuff he's pulled on their family. But otherwise, I feel like it's got to come down to, like, Jaime and Tyrion and Cersei, or Arya and Cersei, or some combination of that, right?
We don't want Euron to be make it to the final round.
No.
He's in a show full of so many complex
Right.
characters. He's just a dastardly dude,
Yeah.
right? He's just completely just despicable and nasty, but very good and effective at being evil.
Yes.
He is a
You
true
love to hate him, for sure.
evil character. So I would like to see him go out in spectacular fashion in the battle. And that's my prediction, is that we're going to get the Battle of King's Landing
Right.
here. You know, they used to call this, Danny called it like the last war. I think they're going to try and outdo themselves with just another big battle scene in like a siege. Things will not go well. I don't think they can use the dragon without taking out like at least a dozen of those scorpion giant crossbows, right? I don't think that's
someone's got to
happen.
get on the parapets and like take those
What
down.
doesn't the dragon just fly in at night, straight down, strafe the place, like inside the parapet where all the scorpions are pointing out at sea?
All
Those
these
things
nice
can't be
strategic thoughts that you have.
Just
that,
like you can fly, dude. You don't have to fly straight. Go up and then come straight
zigzag
down.
like Rickon should have done all those years ago.
Just like
Come
dive
on.
bomb them.
As we learned from the Battle of Winterfell, nobody knows how to strategy, even the most basic of military strategy. The second they sent the Dothraki
just
off
into
to
the
fight,
mystery
just
darkness.
charge into the darkness against a horde enemy, that is the worst thing you could possibly do. And so, logic isn't going to go very far with these folks.
But I agree, because we don't see anything in the preview for next week, they're keeping it very cagey, even by Game of Thrones standards, in giving us a preview for next week. It's going to have to, some stuff's going to go down. It's going to have to be some bloody, I think even the cast have said that episode 5 is going to be bigger.
So I think by the end of this episode, a lot of big principal characters will meet their end, because while they haven't shown us a big fight, I'm pretty sure we're going to get that big fight, and a lot of people are going to meet their end. I think we'll decide who sits on the Iron Throne by the who sits on the Iron Throne at the end of episode 5, and then for the last episode, we get a time jump and see how it all shook out. Right, and some of them can have kids, and we can see what's going where, who winds up in what house and everything. And we can sort of get a jump forward and see how it all shook out.
Yeah.
Now that the Game of Thrones has been finished in air quotes.
Yeah.
I wonder, will there be less of a giant battle and more of a couple of duels, maybe like would like an Oberyn Martell kind of thing, where it's like mano y mano, because they don't have that many forces left, right? Yeah.
They have a fairly decently sized army. They have no Dothraki. They have like a fair amount of the Unsullied left in the northern forces.
They lost half when they were taking stuff off the.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, but
Game of Thrones time and logic and battle. It's
even if you win the Iron Throne, you're not going to have any army. Period. Can't somebody else just roll into town then? Like at a certain point, they're going to have kill themselves basically just to get to this point.
There'll be nobody left.
Yep.
Actually, one last question before we go. Cersei let in all the people of King's Landing. We know there's like 1 million people who live there into the Red Keep, which is surrounding her. How do you think that will factor into the battle once they start laying siege to King's Landing?
Cannon fodder.
Human shields.
You think like Cersei and Jon, like their forces would account for the people, or just are they collateral damage?
I think Cersei's certainly counting on them being collateral damage. I think she thinks that her enemies aren't going to plow through all these innocent civilians, and so that's going to slow them down. But I also do wonder, we've heard many times about these caches of wildfire stashed around King's Landing, so I don't know if she might just be like, if I can't have it, no one can, and just blow the whole joint.
That would certainly make Dany's prophecy from the House of the Undying come true when she was walking in the throne room. And we all thought that was snow coming down to represent the Night King and the White Walkers, but that could be ash. Or maybe it's from her going Dracarys, and maybe that lights the wildfire and it all goes up in flames.
Yeah, any amount of fire in King's Landing. Dany doesn't know this, but certainly it could set off all those little wildfire stores that they have stashed away. So I feel like that has to be Cersei's contingency plan at the very least.
Oh man, the Hound is not going to like being around that much fire.
Yeah,
he's definitely going to kill the mountain and then get burned to death, and it'll be really sad.
Ouch! Yeesh, it's getting dark.
So that was us fan fictioning the end of Game of Thrones. Thank you both for all your thoughts on this episode.
Of course.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Dragons on the Wall. Make sure to come back next week for the penultimate episode of Game of Thrones. Oh my God. And for even more Game of Thrones, join our IGN watch party pre-show and post-show. And for all things Game of Thrones, follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.